Breaking news. And this one changes everything. President Trump just told the world that the United States has achieved regime change in Iran. In an interview with the Financial Times published Sunday, Trump claimed that after 1 month of U.S.-Israeli military operations, Iran has new leadership. And according to Trump, these new leaders are, in his words, much more reasonable. But that is not even the biggest headline. Trump also told the Financial Times that the United States could very easily seize Kharg Island, Iran's most critical oil export terminal. The island that processes and exports approximately 90% of all Iranian oil. Trump compared it directly to the United States' seizure of Venezuela's oil sector. Let that sink in. The President of the United States is publicly floating the seizure of Iran's primary oil hub. On the record. To the Financial Times. Pause. To understand why Kharg Island matters so much, you need to understand what it actually is. Kharg Island is a small island in the Persian Gulf off the coast of Iran. It is not strategically significant because of its size. It is strategically significant because almost all of Iran's oil export infrastructure runs through it. Approximately 90% of Iranian oil exports, worth billions of dollars every month, flow through Kharg Island. If the United States seizes Kharg Island, Iran loses its primary source of revenue overnight. Its ability to fund military operations, pay its military and sustain its economy collapses dramatically. This is not just a military target. This is an economic decapitation strike. Pause. And the military buildup confirms this is more than just talk. Strikes continued across Iran through the weekend. But more significantly, an amphibious assault team has now massed in the Persian Gulf region. Along with portions of the 82nd Airborne Division, one of the most elite rapid deployment forces in the entire United States military. An amphibious assault team. In the Persian Gulf. Right next to Kharg Island. This is not a coincidence. Amphibious assault units are specifically designed for exactly one thing, seizing coastal and island targets. The military positioning in the Gulf right now is a direct signal that the Kharg Island option is being actively prepared. Pause. Now let us talk about what regime change in Iran actually means, if Trump's claim is accurate. Iran's supreme leader Ayatollah Khamenei has been the absolute authority in Iran since 1989. If the U.S.-Israeli military operation has genuinely displaced or eliminated the existing Iranian leadership, this represents the most significant geopolitical shift in the Middle East since the 1979 Islamic Revolution. New Iranian leadership that is, in Trump's words, more reasonable could potentially mean a ceasefire in the current conflict, reopening of the Strait of Hormuz, de-escalation of Houthi operations in the Red Sea, and potentially a new nuclear deal framework. If any of those outcomes materialize, oil prices could fall dramatically from their current $116 level. Markets could rally sharply. And the recession risk we have been tracking could ease significantly. But, and this is a very important but, Trump has a history of making optimistic claims that outpace reality on the ground. Markets are watching the actual military situation very carefully. And right now, the military situation still shows active strikes across Iran and Houthi missiles targeting Israel. Words and reality on the ground are two very different things. Pause. So what does all of this mean for global markets right now? Oil markets are caught between two opposing forces. On one side, Trump's regime change claim and the possibility of a more reasonable Iranian leadership is slightly bearish for oil. If Iran reopens Hormuz and the conflict de-escalates, oil prices could fall back significantly from $116. On the other side, the threat of the United States actually seizing Kharg Island is massively bullish for oil. Any military action against Kharg Island would trigger an immediate Iranian response, potentially including full Hormuz closure, accelerated Houthi operations and a dramatic escalation that sends oil prices toward that $200 level Macquarie warned about. The market is essentially pricing in maximum uncertainty right now. And maximum uncertainty means maximum volatility. Gold remains extremely elevated as safe haven demand stays strong regardless of which direction the conflict moves. Defense stocks continue to surge. The 82nd Airborne massing in the Gulf is exceptionally positive for Lockheed Martin, Raytheon, and Northrop Grumman. And the US dollar is strengthening, which puts additional pressure on emerging market economies and increases the cost of dollar-denominated oil imports for countries like India, Japan, and South Korea. Pause. Here is what smart investors are watching right now. The single most important development to monitor in the next 48 hours is whether Trump's regime change claim gets confirmed or denied by events on the ground. If Iranian military operations cease, if the Houthis stand down, if Hormuz traffic resumes, then oil falls sharply, markets rally and the worst-case scenario gets avoided. If strikes continue, if the 82nd Airborne moves toward Kharg Island, if Iran retaliates by fully closing Hormuz, then we are looking at $200 oil, a global recession and the most serious economic crisis in decades. There is no middle ground here. This is binary. And the next 48 hours will tell us everything. Pause. So what should you do with your money right now? First, do not make any panic moves. Maximum volatility cuts both ways. Panic selling at the bottom is how ordinary investors lose money while smart money buys the dip. Second, keep your emergency fund fully stocked in a high-yield savings account. 4 to 4.5% yield is still available and that buffer is your most important financial protection right now. Third, watch energy stocks very carefully. If the conflict escalates toward Kharg Island, US domestic energy producers will benefit enormously. If it de-escalates, rotate out of energy into growth. Fourth, gold remains a strong safe haven position regardless of which direction this goes. Geopolitical uncertainty of this magnitude is historically very positive for gold. Fifth, avoid making major financial decisions, buying a house, taking on new debt, making large investment moves, until the 48-hour picture becomes clearer. And sixth, stay informed. This situation is the most consequential geopolitical and economic story of 2026. Every development matters. That is exactly why the Capital Brief exists. Pause. Here is the bottom line. Trump is claiming regime change in Iran. He is publicly floating the seizure of Kharg Island. The 82nd Airborne is massing in the Persian Gulf. Oil is at $116 and could hit $200. And the next 48 hours will determine whether this conflict escalates toward a full global economic crisis or begins to de-escalate toward a resolution. The stakes could not be higher. For the Middle East. For global energy markets. For inflation. For recession risk. And for your money. The Capital Brief will be here, every single day, breaking it all down in plain language as it happens. If this video helped you understand what is unfolding, subscribe right now and hit the notification bell. Share this with everyone you know. Because what happens in the next 48 hours affects every single person on this planet. Stay informed. Stay calm. Stay ahead. This is the Capital Brief.